Testing. Did you want to do the intros?
Well, I was thinking it'd be good to have Dave do it for me.
Yeah.
It's not so much for me.
So do you and Dave? You and I?
Okay. I was going to get you and Dave, but...
Oh, me and Dave.
You and Dave.
We'll take turns and sit out.
That's right. We'll mix it up.
I was going to say, where's Nina?
Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
We are Morning Startup. Thank you, Scott. We meet here every 2 weeks without fail, except over Christmas in January. And every 2 weeks we have some awesome speakers. By the way, sorry. Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm facilitating today with Dave. So welcome to Morning Startup. For those who don't know me, I'm a co-founder as well, so in the tourism and hospitality space.
Perfect. Behind the camera we have Scott Glue, one of the original organisers. We've got Mr. Chair and banner person here on his phone, Gus. And myself, Dave, also as long as Scott. And like I say, it's Morning Startups. We're just actually how many members are we now? We must be like within 10 members of 7,000, making us one of Australia's largest communities of tech entrepreneurs and people that just want to learn about cool, interesting stuff at 7:30 in the morning.
So this is Dave's plea, because he said that we're, what, Dave, 10 people off 7,000?
Let's just check very quickly. Let's just check. Who can beat me to it? Meet up. My glasses are in my pocket, and we will have a party. We said we had a party at 2,000. We had the M2K party. We did. We said the M2K party. But we are, I'm on the internet. We live in 2024 and we still wait for stuff to load. How many does it say? I can't see stuff. 40. We have 40 to go. Come on, people. We know we can do this.
You want a party.
And I know we need to do a party because TechOn and Ammo and Keep Space and Beach have all said they'd love to pay for it. So anyway, we have this plug every 2 weeks. We know who the newbies are here. So who wants to stand up and share what you're working on? I will run around while you do it.
Beautiful.
Matt, go ahead.
Okay, anyone here who doesn't have a Freo Startup Fest pass? Hands up. Okay, so we're running some competitions over the next few weeks. Look out for TechOn. If you want to get a free ticket, follow us. Look at some of the promotions we're doing, get involved, and you might win yourself a free ticket. Also, on the 25th of this month, we're doing an Ask Me Anything CTO edition, which is all about our new school. First info session that we're doing this month, featuring the lovely Erin over in the front of you, as well as Pat at the back. We've got Lee Goldsworthy on the panel as well, and we've got one more to be announced shortly, so it's a mixed panel. And that's really just to talk, that's really people to ask anything, as we've said, anything about tech, anything about strategy, anything about potentially tech careers, startup for early stage startups, but it's also to talk more about the CTO school that we're launching later, I guess earlier in the year, next year as well. So,
and who is the CTO school for?
For non-tech founders and tech founders. So it's all about leadership and a strategic focus on helping build tech leadership in the Perth ecosystem. So you're curious about anything that I've just talked about, come and talk to me after this.
Well done. Who else wants to stand up and introduce themselves? Tell us what you're working on. There we go, down here. That's more like it.
Okay, so I'm Mateus. I'm working with Wilson Casado at Sadio, and we've been working on a corporate innovation event on the 2nd of December. So we'll be on the same week of the WestTech Fest. The whole idea of the event is trying to bring the corporate world closer to the startup world. So trying to tell a bit of the stories of how some corporate venture capital got closer to this world, and also giving the opportunity for some startups to present their work to the corporate world. So that's about it.
Pass the mic to this gent.
Awesome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carl Rad, and I'm a software developer. I've arrived to Perth since last December, and I specialize in JavaScript, Java, TypeScript, and recently got certified in AWS. And I'm open for work, so Could be in a startup, could be in contracts, anything. So yeah, hit me up if you're interested, and we can have a talk.
Next.js. What was that?
Next.js.
No experience yet, but I'm open for it. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be lapped up very quickly. Anybody else? Here we go.
Hey everyone, Mick McKay, part of the Perth Angels group here in Perth. Just a bit of a plug, we've got our annual investor breakfast for members coming up in a couple of weeks, but we also do a pitch every quarter where we get startups that are looking for funding from angel investors to come by and pitch. We've just closed our screening for this pitch night coming up in a couple of weeks, but we do it every quarter, so if there's any founders in the room and you're at that stage where you're a bit past friends and family and you're looking for pre-seed or seed capital and you're not quite ready to go to a VC, go to our website and we've got a bit of a process there where you can apply, and we get 3 or 4 startups every quarter to come and pitch to our members. If you're a sophisticated investor and you're interested in learning a little bit more, we do have this big event coming up in a couple of weeks. We normally do it as part of WestTech Fest, but we've brought it forward a couple of weeks this year because WestTech's so busy. So a bit more intimate event, but for the founders in the room, if you're looking for capital and you're ready, look us up and you potentially can pitch with us.
My name's Owen. Oh, it's pretty loud. I started a couple of years ago. It was a bit of a startup. It's a combination between structural inspections and automated workflows with some integration with AI at the moment. And so we've got a couple of guys on now and just looking to expand a little bit more. But just really, I'm a chartered structural engineer, so pairing that with some of the new technologies coming out, it's been really exciting. So, yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
One more? Yep, I've got 2 more. I'll let you go.
In representation of the ladies, I would say. Hi, I'm Isi. I'm starting to build a SaaS tool for sustainability. After years working in the sustainability teams of European multinationals, I realized that sustainability has become a luxury item for businesses. You can only achieve good sustainability results by paying expensive consultants or actually having big sustainability teams. And I want to bring sustainability for every single company in the planet, especially SMEs. So I'm starting to develop a SaaS tool that will take companies through the development, deployment, monitoring, reporting, and automatization of the strategies.
And what's your ask? What are you asking for?
People in tech. I have the sustainability background, all the sustainability expertise. I'm an engineer, but I'm not a software expert. So looking for people in tech.
And one more around the back here.
We've got one more down the front, please.
Oh, wait.
Good morning, my name's Brad. I'm from Rise Collaboration. We're a project management and process design services provider. We are assisting not-for-profits, startups and government organisations, helping them deliver their projects through complex frameworks or governance. And we also provide services to improve and identify process design throughout businesses and help them gain a bit of clarity across their structure. If any of those sorts of services is of interest to you, come have a chat to me after the event.
Fantastic. And down the front here.
Yeah. Cool. I'll grab my coffee on the way through.
Morning, everyone. My name is Loveness Matimera. I'm with LBBM Property Group. We are a buyer's agency, and my background is in ICT business analysis and data analytics. So I am helping people to invest, and we buy properties based on data, projecting the future growth of the properties and the future performance. So if you're looking to get into the market and you are overwhelmed or confused and you want the data to be broken down, we are here to carry the heavy burden for you. We're also looking into house and land packages. So anyone looking for a home or investment property, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Brilliant. Right, we've got some slides that we do. I think we want to... So, Erin.
Founders Sundowner, can you hear me?
You take that one.
I think that's
shout.
flat.
I'll shout.
For the purpose of the live stream, Dave will not shout. So I love you, Dave, but I, as I said, I spend part of my time in Perth and part of my time in Calaveran. So shout out to everyone who is on the live stream. I was on a live stream on Friday from the farm, and I cannot tell you how frustrating it was when people didn't use the mic. I reckon I only heard about half of the panel conversations.
Oh, don't worry. It's just the fire drill. We get it all the time. So, just a downer. The sundowner will be the first Wednesday. Scott, when is it?
Tonight.
Well, hey.
That's the important part.
Scott, where is it?
It's Nowhere Man.
Nowhere Man Brewery. Sorry?
Same place.
Different name. 5:30. Be there. Be square.
Don't be distracted.
We're good. We're good.
Do you want that one?
No, it's all good. I'm going to shout, but if you can hear me, I've got the live mic here. So, scan this. If you are looking to get investment, right, Derek, Kylie, and Kirsty will be doing an online session. It's probably one of the best sessions I've ever seen. How they tell you what an investor is looking for. We had them in here a few months ago. In fact, it's probably closer to last year now. And if you go back onto perthvideo.com/morning startup, there's a session there. But scan that QR code. There is a founder information session that will help you get investor ready and understand what they're looking for. Is it today? I'm in a time capsule.
All right, DDD Perth. Who is excited? Who's got the tickets for DDD Perth? Show of hands. It is an absolutely fantastic inclusive event. One of our co-organisers, Nina, is also giving a talk at DDD Perth, so check it out. As exactly says on the screen, one day fully inclusive, approachable and affordable tech conference.
Woohoo!
It's exactly like being a startup founder, isn't it?
Okay, who's got the tickets for West Tech Fest? There is a founder special one as well, I believe. If you go and click it, it's a bit cheaper than the 400. I think the normal price is, $430, and the founders one's like $270, $280. So
There's a bunch of events.
Yeah. That was just for the main West Tech event. Obviously, there's ones all the way through from West Tech Women to West Tech Coast, and there's lots. But check out West Tech Fest's website. Scott here is wearing the WTF T-shirt.
Represent. The other thing is, if you were only going to pick one event as a startup founder, as I said, it's a whole week, is to check out, along with our lovely partners TechOn, Freo Startup Fest. So it is the event that is most specifically targeted for startup founders. While there's lots of stuff happening across the week, if you've only got time to squeeze one into your calendar, that would be the one that I would go to if I wasn't on holidays.
It's the cheapest and it's the most...
And it's the cheapest. Super reasonably priced.
And it's a lot of fun. So anyway, we couldn't do this without the help of JITSI, the Government Department of Jobs, Tourism, Science and Innovation and the New Industries Fund. Big thank you to them. They're the ones who are sponsoring the live stream, so those in the rural, remote areas like Joondalup can watch this. If you haven't checked out some of their programs, there's some really great ways they are supporting the ecosystem here, from like the Waves program that brought us the new VCs here like Purpose and Fund WA and that, all the way through to Innovator of the Year that happened last Monday, or the week one Monday ago. So congratulations to all of those. And if you haven't, check out wadealroom.co. Chances are your business is already on there, and go and update it and have a look.
All right, and hello to, we've spoken about the live stream, kindly sponsored by the New Industries Fund. If there's any talks that you can't get out of bed for, check out all of the talks. It's quite an amazing library. How long has that been running for now, Dave?
It's quite a long, it's a long time.
So it's a pretty epic library building up, and also if there's particular, so some of the speakers have had quite technical type talks, so if you want to go back and watch them at a slower pace, or almost like a homework assignment, work through some of the different frameworks, the videos are online for you.
Big supporter to Ammo. Thank you very much, Ammo, for supporting us. Like I say, the reason we've got these supporters is because while Scott, Aaron, Gus and myself all do this for the love of the community, it does cost us a bit of money to run the meetup subscriptions and all the bits. So thank you very much to Ammo. If you haven't checked out their Weird Growth podcast, please do so. It's got some great stuff on. And specifically, check out the latest one here, From Mystery to Remarkable Storytelling, by Mike Drysdale, Chief Mystery Officer at Folklore, VC, I believe Folklore is, and that's on the latest one. So please check it out and listen to it.
We're also doing a live Weird Growth for EXTAG Fest as well.
Yep. So for those who are on the live stream, live Weird Growth podcast for EXTAG Fest. Big special thanks to Beecham Group. We've got to get rid of it because we're behind schedule, but a massive thanks to them for their help. I'll let you do.
I get the next one, Keep Space. This is the one that I know the least about, but I know for them. Thanks, Dave, thanks. But it's for anyone in the room who is into 3PL and actually knows what that means, congratulations, because I don't. But Keep Space is here for you when you're ready to scale.
And massive thanks to Keep Space for the food. We love it. My staff specifically, Jessie, so thanks.
So don't be shy.
And last but not least, Tekken. If you are looking, who's looking for a developer here? Hands up. Who needs a developer? Hands right up. Right, Patrick, Matt, take a note. If you are looking for a developer that's cost effective, check out Patrick and Matt here. Great team in Nepal. English is first class. I can personally validate, and so can you. So great team there. Check out Matt from Tekken. And yes. And also, if you haven't grabbed a coffee, go and grab one for courtesy of Tekken from down the road. Right, I'm going to run through this. We couldn't do this without these people here, but just check those out. And if you want to get in contact with us.
So that's the entrepreneurial development support. Scan the QR code and walk you through how the ecosystem can help.
Yep. And that's it. I'm going to hand to Erin, who's got the good mic, to introduce her gorgeous speakers. Is there? Oh, yeah, there is. Sorry.
In 2 weeks' time, we have Ash Vidolia, who's going to be talking about user personas specifically. He's a UX design expert. And have you all heard about user personas and how they can be useful in your company and sort of guide everything you do? Like segment your audience and work out who they are, give them a face, all that kind of stuff. He's going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into user persona creation. So come along, it should be awesome.
So, thank you, Aaron, for arranging this. I'm going to hand over to you.
Awesome.
All yours.
I believe that the formalities are out of the way. No mic drops, please.
Yes.
I'll invite Gabe and Lan to get comfortable up here. What are we doing? We'll work out I'll do a quick intro while we work out what's happening with that mic.
It's kind of intermittent, but if you just project your voice.
Testing. Hello.
The online
Hello?
will be able to hear you, but just project your voice to the...
All right. Yep.
What I'll do is once I've done the intro, we'll swap mics because you guys are going to be saying far more interesting things than I am.
All right.
All right, so why I've roped Gabe and Lan into getting up bright and early this morning, because one of the big things that we come across a lot in the startup community is everyone keeps on saying, hey, you should get sales, you should get money in the bank, but then we don't talk about how do you practically do that. So these two fantastic humans have done exactly that with EXTAG. So they started in the oil and gas industry. I won't give too much away about some of the industries that they're scaling into at the moment because that's what we're going to touch on. So in terms of introduction, Gabe is the co-founder and CTO of EXTAG, which is a Perth-based software platform that empowers companies to transition into the digitisation from the end user perspective. That sounds beautiful, doesn't it? And then we've also got Lan joining us, and I will get them to introduce themselves in more detail. So Lan is a luminary, as you can see, very, very bright spot in Western Australia's tech scene, and she's recognised for her passion for emerging technologies and their social impact. So what we're going to be delving into today is I'm going to ask these two a few questions to get warmed up and get into the topic. But what we'll then be doing is throwing over to the audience to ask questions as well. So today is very much a panel session. So as we kind of move through the first questions, get ready, thinking about all of the types of things that you wanted to ask about sales and scaling, but were always too afraid to ask. So get excited. So in terms of, before we get into the meat of talking about sales and scaling, I thought I'd put Lan on the spot. And so remember last fortnight how Aaron was talking about pitching and how to have an elevator pitch? I thought I'd put Lan on the spot, no pressure Lan, it's fine, and ask her, so this is a woman who's probably pitched however many times in her life, which is to get her to pitch EXTAG to us. Over to Lan.
Holy macaroni. Alrighty. Okay, so you heard what EXTAG is about. So for me, it's a very simple message, is that EXTAG is a software platform that enables company to achieve operational efficiency, and company that has a lot of asset, because it's about how do you support your workforce to do their work with the inspection, testing and regular maintenance by actually giving them the tools that work and they can do their job consistently. And the platform has to be robust, that the information get through to management for them to make a decision. So that's ultimately is what EXTAG is about, a user-centric platform that allows the people on the ground to do their job well.
How's that for... All right, I'm going to project my voice. How is that for a pitch? That's pretty awesome. So you can see that's a pitch that's been worked on over how many years?
Oh, I didn't work on it. I just get feedback from people. So every time I explain it, I actually, get people that I meet to actually give me back what they're hearing from me. And so I actually get my ideas from them. So I'm not actually the one actually coming up with the idea. It's my audience that actually help me with crafting the speech and pitch.
Beautiful. So what we're going to cover off today is understanding Gabe as a startup founder, everything from his beginning of his journey right through to where they are today. So going right back to the start, Gabe, I am absolutely fascinated to know, how did you manage to sell EXTAG to a customer before you even had a product?
I knew you were going to ask this.
Yeah.
So those who know me, this is my second software company. The first one was TrackMySubs, and I went through that with, I guess, the traditional way of, I've got this great idea, I'm going to solve the world's problems, I'm going to retire a millionaire, let's go and take over the world, right? So I hired a few developers, and we went out and built it, with the idea if I build it, they'll come. So anyway, that's very, very risky, and it was a lot of hard work over a number of years. When we started EXTAG, and I give credit to my co-founder, business partner, who's not here, he's more of a silent partner as far as the publicity goes of EXTAG. But when we started out, he's very much of a salesperson, and he scared the shit out of me because he would just commit to everything and say, yes, we'll do it, whatever the customer wants, we're going to do it. And then after the meeting, I would go, Eric, we don't have anything. Like, we don't have anything. And he's like, that's all right, I know, Gabe, you'll figure it out. And so the lesson for me was that we actually didn't have a customer, but we were able to validate it very quickly because we got a tier 2 customer who was willing to give us good money because the problem was going to really solve their problem, even though we didn't quite have it ready. Didn't quite have it ready yet, as in didn't have anything. And we committed to having it in 6 weeks. And I can tell you there's nothing more motivating than going, I need to have a solution in 6 weeks. I remember the conversations I had with my developers. I'm not a developer, so I just have to try and wrangle it. I can't actually get in there, get my hands dirty and help. So it was really about, how do I convince them that this is actually achievable? And I remember having this conversation where, they were telling me, Gabe, you don't understand. There's just no way. This is absolutely impossible. And I remember saying, look, guys, there's 2 ways we can approach this. We can either say, no, it's not possible, and we fail today, and we call up our customer and say it's not going to happen. And we walk away, we close the business, and we go look for other jobs. So, or we just give it a darn good crack, and we'll get as close as we can, and then we'll try and just keep it rolling. You know, just see if we can get enough to them that they're happy with, that we can go to the next bit and go to the next bit. And you know, the guys didn't like it because they wanted to have this perfect product. And that was really, you know, a big learning to go just near enough is good enough. And that's what we did, and they're still our customer today. So yeah, that's crazy times.
What a fascinating story. So that's a motivation for some of us who haven't got to even developers yet, is that being perfect isn't necessarily the goal in the startup world. So we're going to fast forward a little. So Gabe's given us a bit of an introduction to how we got started. So we're going to fast forward a little. Gabe, can you walk us through what made you think, right, now I need to bring on my first salesperson?
Yeah, so I think it was the beginning of last year, wasn't it? It's been almost 2 years. Yeah. So I hate sales.
Not salespeople.
Not salespeople. I really struggled, sort of, you know, getting out there and trying, you know, the networking side of things. It just sucks the life out of me. It's one of those things like, yeah, I can do it, but gee, I would find every other reason in the world to avoid it. A couple of years ago, we're quite established, and we realised that our product, being really flexible, there was opportunity in other sectors. I'm from oil and gas, mining. My business partner's in oil and gas and mining. So we had kind of, you know, saturated our networks, and we're like, well, for us to go to the next level, we really need someone to do this. And I kind of had in my mind what needed to be done, and I also was very clear in my mind that this is not something I wanted to do. So, you know, I talked with Eric, and I said, let's got to find someone to do all the, excuse my French, do all the shit that we absolutely hate and sucks the life out of us. And if we can find someone who's absolutely energised by it, then great. You know, we can let them loose, and and that's, you know, I can't get away with wearing a mirror ball, but I certainly can. And I think that comes down to recognising what you're good at and what you like doing, because there's nothing worse than there's lots of things you've got to do as a business owner, but recognising the stuff that you just don't like, and that someone else will be way better at it, and then having the resources to be able to do that. I mean, that's the key. Yeah.
Fantastic. So the next question is for our mirror ball, Lan. So we've just heard from Gabe that sales is not his happy place. And I know, Lan, sales is your happy place. Can you walk us through your sales philosophy? Because I know that when you think about sales, you don't think about just selling. So can you walk us through that?
Yes, so I'm really, really passionate about it, and I know that in this room and everywhere I go, the word sales conjure up the boogeyman, not in a mirror ball. People get this horrible feeling because they relate to the bad, worst sales experience where they get forced into a corner and they feel that they've been cheated into a sale. So my sales philosophy is very simple. It's actually about finding a market that there's a need for it, and being able to convey that message very clearly. And for me, is actually conveying the message is not about going out there and pounding down to the person or the people that you think need it because you are the lifesaver. You have to frame it in a way that makes sense to them. And you have to allow them, invite them to come to you. They have to actually want it, and they have to approach you first for you to share that message. So my philosophy is frame it, set the scene, and you have to show up as well. With selling is, you've probably heard from Gabe, is that if you don't show up to events, you don't show up to any opportunity, you miss out. So you have to always have that energy to show up, because that scene, that place where you are is probably the biggest deal that you're going to come across, because you have to show up.
Beautiful. So Lan just touched on entering new markets. So this is a question probably for starting with Gabe, and then Lan, if you've got anything that you want to add on there, is you mentioned that you started in oil and gas. How did you and Lan make decisions about which markets to test and also which ones to exit?
Yeah, so the theory when we thought other markets was assets, right? Surely it's not just oil and gas and mining. They've got lots of equipment that needs maintaining. The question is how many assets do they have? How do they currently maintain it? And the big one is, what is the commercial value? Mining, oil and gas, they've got a lot of cash. They see the value on it and they spend a lot of money on it. But other, sectors may not. So it was about, okay, well, we need to find customers, we've got to understand the market, and that's really where Lan came in. It was just like, Lan, figure it out, because I don't know where to start. And really it was about just doing research, and Lan could probably expand onto it. But one of the biggest catalysts was we applied for a program that was actually an agriculture. We'll use agriculture as an example. We applied for sort of like a startup program, and we entered it as a startup, but as an established business. And our sales pitch to them was, look, we want to diversify. We don't know. We've got an existing product. It's commercially viable. We've got an established business. We want to see whether we can help this market, and does it exist? And we got accepted into that program, and that was really fundamental for getting in front of so many different areas of agriculture. And it enabled us to kind of make a decision ultimately about whether that was a market for us. But I'll save that for a minute. Do you want to add to that, Lan?
No, I think that's actually really well said.
All right. So I guess to summarise what happened then, we ended up going to Evoke Ag, which is the big sort of agriculture expo. It was here this year, beginning of this year. And we spoke to so many people. And what came out of it was that they loved our tech, they loved the platform, and everyone wanted to use it, but commercially it was just impossible. The example I used, this gentleman came up, he had a number of farms and he had a huge amount of equipment, and then he said, yeah, look, this is amazing, how much is it? And I said, well, what do you think, what's your perception here? He said, well, if it's more than $200 a month, I'm not really interested. Our subscriptions start at thousands of dollars a month and go up from there. And it's just completely not viable. There's a perception of, and maybe it's just the commercial, the reality of that sector is that they just don't have the money to be able to put into those things. The other thing that was really interesting about agriculture is I forget the number, it's something really high, like 80% of agricultural enterprises are family enterprises. And so from a structure, they've got a small group, and maybe it might be 5 to 10 people, managing huge areas of land and lots of equipment. But they're also doing everything. So they're not just maintaining equipment, they're checking the weather, and they're doing seeding, and they're doing fertilising, and all the thousand of other things that goes with running a property. Whereas where we come from, we've got teams of 20, 30, 50 people looking after tens of thousands of pieces of equipment, and that's their only dedicated task in a much bigger organisation. So the structure is quite different. And so when the buyers in the agricultural sector are looking for a product, they're looking for something to help them with everything. And so there's some existing products there which are very good, which is like that all-in-one product. It'll help you with the 20 or 30 assets that you've got, but it'll also show me the weather, and I can track my fertiliser usage and all those other things. So it's really structured around how those organisations are structured as well. So we decided that agriculture wasn't for us, and we've just gone, enough time spent on that.
Fantastic.
Can I add to that?
You sure can. I was going to say, and then tell us a happy story.
Oh, well, I'd like to add to what Gabe said with regard to Evoke Ag, because Evoke Ag is actually one of the biggest agricultural conference in the Southern Hemisphere, and so it actually does attract a lot of international people interested in what Australian technologists and innovators are doing. And what's interesting about Evoke Ag, and this is what I mean about from a sales perspective showing up, because we were there to actually look at the agricultural industry, and yet the kind of responses we had was very interesting. We actually got universities coming to us from the eastern state, and they said, well, we're actually at this point of actually monitoring our asset and we don't have a system. And so they were really, really interested in what EXTAG could do for them, and we didn't expect that market opportunity in an agricultural conference. So in a way, showing up is very important, because even though we look at opportunities, sometimes it's actually land on your lap. So that's just something to think about.
Yeah, I forgot about it. It's so real, right? Now, education sector is actually a real market for us. The way that universities are structured and TAFE and those sorts of things, that is a market for us, which we are pursuing. So, that we wouldn't have really picked up on that if it wasn't for that, the agriculture effort.
How fascinating. So entering new markets, so you've come from oil and gas, Gabe, and we've just talked about entering education. And for those who have worked in the education sector, it has its own language, it has a secret handshake, it has a particular way that it operates. How do you infiltrate new markets? How do you pick up the lingo and get your foot in the door? This is Lan's happy place.
I'm all about the lingo, and so let me just give you a bit of an idea. Because English is my second language, I learned from a very wee young age that unless you speak the lingo, the secret handshake, you're not going to get in. So for me, when you're infiltrating the market, as you say it, the most important thing is identify the events where that market opportunity will be and show up. So go to those events, commit to it, and learn the lingo. So for instance, when I first started with EXTAG, so that was very early last year, I'm actually not from oil and gas and not from mining at all with my background. I'm a tech background. And so I thought, well, for me to have some credibility and understand the lay of the land, I need to actually pick up on the latest lingo. So we identified there was a resource conference, like every 2 years there's a resource event. The ticket was really expensive, and I said to Gabe, I need to go to this event because I know from going there I'll pick up all the latest lingo, which I did. And interesting enough, the premier at the time, Mark McGowan, he actually said something very interesting, which I just quote again and again to this day because it's relevant to our industry. He actually said that 65% of mining software used in the world come from Australia, and that the bulk of it come from Western Australia. And it's something that I thought is very powerful because when you're working in tech and you're working in this space, you need to know what kind of messaging that is out there that is very authoritative and that is actually something that you can carry forward and actually use as your marketing piece. The same go with agriculture. When we look at agriculture's opportunity, again, secret handshake agriculture is a very close-knit community, and for me it's like, what is the event, what are the organisation that is out there that is actually doing something within the community, and actually again show up and actually understand all the challenges and actually understand what it is that they're looking for. Again, is what I said before about framing up, showing up, framing up, and get yourself invited into that space. So it's very, very important, the lingo and the handshakes.
Beautiful. Did you want to add anything on that, Gabe?
The thing that always stands out for me is defence. Defence is like another whole world again. And the easy one is if you use the word maintenance, they just look at you and go, what? But then you go sustainment. Oh, yeah, no worries, it's to say sustainment. Okay. It's the same thing, isn't it? Oh, yeah, but we call it sustainment. And the word capability is like every third word in every sentence these days, I think. But it's about... when we were over at Land Forces last month, whenever it was, we met up with a brigadier who we'd met the year before at a previous conference. And I pulled out some words and was sitting there talking to him, and I pulled out a form like AD049 and da-da-da-da-da, and he goes, "Look at you, Gabe, picking up all the lingo." Yeah, I got it.
The happy story to that, I can shout because I get excited. The happy story to that is that because he was so impressed with us understanding lingo and what it is that they're trying to do in defence, he actually wants to actually stand people across so that we can actually move forward with the conversation that we started last year. So this is how quickly you can move if you get your lingo right and you understand what the challenges are.
But I think part of it's just understanding your customer. Like if you can't talk in the same language that your customer uses, then they're not going to connect with you and go, you don't even understand what our problems are. So why should I think about you as a solution to them if you don't even know how to talk about them?
So true. I was thinking we might switch gears. We've been talking about how to enter markets and get into the nuts and bolts of selling. So this is a nice one for Lan. which is sales often feels like a dance, and we're sort of talking about closing deals, and some segments you can close deals really fast, other segments take a really long time to close a deal. How do you know that you're actually dancing? So you're having a sales conversation. How do you know that you're talking to the right person about the right stuff?
Very good question. It comes down to the product you're selling or the services that you're selling, because every product, every services have a different dance rhythm and also a different length of time and also a complexity to it. So with EXTAG as a software platform, we're selling to corporate and big organisations that are asset intensive. So even though our ideal and our, the client that we are actually servicing, the end user, are the people on the ground using it, they're not necessarily the one making decision. The decisions are middle management, but then again, which one within middle management, and then the one that gives the authority for the expenditure is further up the food chain. So the how do you know is really about you just working out that organisation as a unique entity and just work out the dance and just move the step forward and backwards. So you actually have to, so my strategy is always about going from the top down and also going from the bottom up as well, because somewhere from the top down and bottom up, you get a really, really happy place where you know that you've actually reached all the right decision makers. Because with us, because it's a complex sale, you actually have to get more people engaged and saying yes to it. It's not just the one person who say yes to it. It's really, really important that you understand that.
I think this is a nice one for Gabe, which is for startups, as a startup founder, navigating corporate procurement processes. So what Lan was just talking about is how do you get your foot in the door, and how do you get people in an organisation to say yes? The next part is how do you actually navigate through corporate procurement as a startup? What are some of the advice that you would give to a startup trying to work out actually how to close a sale and move through the more bureaucratic aspects of closing?
It is a tough one, and it's really dependent on every organisation. I guess the simplest way to get success is you need to find a champion in that organisation who understands the way to get it through, and someone who sees your product and goes, I really want this, and trying to understand what their own personal drivers are. So it might be, they're new in a role and they want to make a mark, so they want to do something different. It might be they're looking for a promotion. It could be a number of things, but trying to understand and finding that key person who's going to be your champion internally and will do the steps necessary, and they can figure it out. You can then get a lot of information from them on how, thinking about commercials, on how you can structure it commercially to support how decisions are made internally to a business. Without going, too into the weeds, you've got, capital expenditure and operational expenditure. SaaS products normally fit under operational expenditure, this monthly ongoing, expense. Some companies hate that, and that gets a lot of scrutiny, and they don't mind capital expenditure as they see them as projects. So you might find that some companies are okay with this operational expenditure and the SaaS product, no worries. Some who are against it, you can reframe it and turn it into more lump sum products, which ultimately ends up to the same revenue, but it's reframing how you sell that product to them, understanding how they like to purchase things and what their psychology is. But to, trying to go for tier ones or even tier twos to some extent as a startup, I just recommend don't even bother. You waste so much time. To give you an idea, our sales cycle is between 12 months and 24 months from first contact with a customer, and sometimes it's even longer. It takes a long time to build that momentum and build that trust, to move through all the different people and figure out where it's going to go, that you need that time. And as a startup, you don't have 2 years to try and hope to get your first customer. Tier threes are amazing because, you find someone who's interested and they've often got the power to pull the trigger and do it right then and there. And the beauty of those is that they're often the pathways into the higher tiers. So if you start demonstrating it at a lower level, one, you can get that decision quicker, but then you're getting it in front of the higher tiers just because that smaller contractor might be there.
Beautiful. Was there anything you wanted to add, Lan, to that?
there's also something else that I know when this is a Gabe kind of answers to, but the thing that I actually admire the way that Gabe actually understands business is that when he actually get the contract, he actually does review it and actually look at how it work for a SaaS company. It's really important to understand that if you actually work in the SaaS side of things, a lot of big companies or tier 1 clients or tier 2 even, most of the contract are written in a way that doesn't really understand SaaS. So you have to actually really have an understanding of how to make, adjustments. So this is a Gabe thing to share.
Yeah, that's a good one. It comes up a lot. In a previous life, I worked for a big multinational construction company, and there were lots and lots of contracts going around, and I was just interested in it. So I got my sort of head in the game just for my own personal, and it's paid so many dividends. And the big thing that came from it was you don't have to agree to the terms and conditions that a company wants to put in front of you. They're not, written in stone. And particularly when it comes to SaaS, most procurement or purchase orders, they're based around a product, a thing that they're buying, and so all those terms and conditions are related to that. And often they just want to issue a purchase order for a SaaS product, and then you've got issues around data ownership, you've got all these other kind of, service level agreements and things like that you might want to provide. It's really scary as a startup to say to a big company who wants to give you a purchase order, and then you go back to them and say, I don't agree to your terms and conditions, because there's that fear of going, well, what if they just say no? I've never had anyone say no, and I generally go back to them and say, well, here's ours, you'll need to sign ours. Oh, no, we don't do that. And I went, well, we've got a problem then, because yours talks about buying widgets and we're talking about a software service. And normally the result is there's a procurement person there who doesn't want to do any work. Oh, I'm going to have to take it up to legal. Yep, no problem. Cool, let us know how you go. I would say 8 out of 10 just get signed and come back to me, and then they will just say, yeah, we've signed it. And I'll say, cool, can you now update the procurement terms and conditions to say these are the conditions that apply to it, because they're often built into that purchase order. The ones that come back with edit, they've actually got some minor edits that come from legal. So one of the conditions that we have in our terms is that we have an unlimited capability to effectively go for our customer for unlimited amount of money if they steal our product. So if they get to use it and then they build another product that's exactly the same, we've got a clause there that says we can take you for as much as possible. And they go, no, we want to limit that to the cost of the actual contract. And we're like, well no, that's just a really cheap way for you to get our IP and how we do things. So we need to have that. So this is a deterrent so that you don't just go and buy a product and then copy it. And then once you explain that, the legal team normally, yeah, okay, right, well, let's limit it to a number, let's pick $20 million or pick something, and normally we'll get that in it. Most customers go, yeah, we're not going to do that, let's make it unlimited, it's fine. And it's just understanding what the reasons for those terms are. But I guess the main message is when it comes to these kind of things, get some legal advice and get some good terms and conditions that are yours, and don't be afraid to say to the customer, you need to sign ours, because, yeah, I've never had any issues and I've never had a deal go south because of me being stubborn and saying, no, you need to sign ours.
One of the other scary parts of that closing the deal is pricing. Do you want to walk us through, I don't know if this is a Gabe or a Lan question, your philosophy on how do you make decisions on how to price something?
This is something we talk about and rethink about at least once every 2 months or 3 months. Understanding what your cost base is really important. That's a really key factor, and that takes time, a bit of maturity in your business to really understand that. But to actually price it, you really need to understand the value of what your customer is getting and also what they're prepared to pay. So there's an interesting psychology around it that and Lan and I talk about this ad nauseum. It's just because something gives a customer insane amounts of value, if they associate a software subscription as a cost, they will never connect those dots. So you've got to kind of work, okay, how do I frame this up in such a way? And this kind of ties into that thing I said before about changing it to capital versus operational costs. If they've got this thing that a SaaS subscription is just cost, it doesn't give us value, then how do we get that down as much as possible, but frame it up in such a way that we can still get the same revenues by doing it in lump sum projects? Pricing just comes down to value and how you can demonstrate that. And it's not a function of, this is our cost basis plus 20%. I think if you do that, you're going to absolutely sell yourself short. And then you'll have costs that will come in out of nowhere. You've just got to really understand that value. Otherwise, you're going to leave money on the table as well.
Can I also add something as well? So with how we actually look at cost as well, and this is something that for scale-up especially to think about, is that price is not something that you fix in stone, and it's like a creature and it's kind of stay that size. You have to always look and assess it, and it's something that is alive. And so for me, from a sales perspective, and this is me talking with my sales hat on, is that price is something that you have to treasure, and it's actually close to your heart. And you only share it when someone is very, very interested in the product. They hear about the benefit and they're ready to go. Then you share it. But it's not something that you just like flick out in an email and just get it publicised all over, because that pricing is something that you're constantly revisiting and going, how else can I add value to my client with this product proposition? And if you already flicked out something out there, to me it's like a dead creature, and it's just like a heavy weight that weight down the value proposition of what you have in the market, because people just see a price out there and they don't understand the rest of what is in the product range and the benefit they get from it. So it's really important when it comes to pricing that you don't just flick it out there. You just have to hold it very close to your heart, and it's something that you constantly revisit to see how it adds value at the end of the day to every conversation that you have.
I might just add to that this is very much focused on a B2B pricing environment. If you've got a B2C product, like TrackMySubs was before, then you're going to have your tiered pricing you're going to have on your website. But that's a very different thing. There's a whole bunch of psychology associated with those tiers and trying to guide your customer to which ones you want as well. We're very focused on B2B, which is a very different beast. So just to caveat that in case someone wasn't sure about what we're talking about there.
Also good advice around the B2C segment as well. I've got heaps more questions, but I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to ask one last question before we open it up to the audience. So have a think about your burning questions as well. What we've spoken about today is really talking about sales as a dance. And what we haven't really talked about is we've not really talked about the product, because what we've really explored is so much of being a successful scale-up is really falling in love with the art of selling and doing business. So I thought if both of you can just leave with the audience with one piece of advice that you would give to somebody as a founder to encourage them to shift out of a product mindset, and how do you fall in love with this dance, this game of doing business?
Well, for me, I've never been precious about the product. For me, I just love the business process and the commercial sort of game. Like, what does this look like? What am I selling? What is all the factors that play into it? The psychology of buying and all that kind of stuff. So for me, everything is like a lever to manipulate to get the outcome I want, and you're just constantly testing it. Lan's taught me so much about the marketing sales piece of it and trusting her process, because it's not a step-by-step process. It's wicked weave of stuff, and some of the things that I see coming through from the most bizarre angles that contribute to, that you can see some of these sales funneling in like this, right? And it's from can you believe that this person spoke to this person who was from that one, from this event that had nothing to do with it, and now they know, it's that whole thing that, Lan taught me so much about, that just adds another whole dimension to it. But for me, it's always been a game about the business game, really.
There you go. Have you met the quokka? Selfie with a quokka later. But anyway, I'll tell you about that story later on privately. So for me, the advice I have to founders in terms of really appreciating the business and dance side of things is that ultimately you have to be really honest yourself, and it's not about just being in love with this baby that you birth and you think it's the most incredible thing ever. You really have to be honest and go, well, is this relevant to the market? Is there a market out there? Because as a salesperson, when I look as a company that I choose to represent, I always ask three things of myself before I even enter that and represent a company. Is it relevant? Is there a market for it? Does people want it? And then to me personally, again, talking from my perspective, is it unique? Is it premium? Is there something that stands above the rest? Because for me, it's not just about selling something that you could get everywhere else. It has to be unique and premium for me to make it stand out. And ultimately, as a salesperson, in my sales technique, is that can it sell itself if it just sit in a room? So after all the demos are done, I'd like to be able to put there like an exhibit, and it should be able to sell itself. And as a founder, you have to ask that question very honestly and understand, because if that product is not selling itself because it's not premium and it's not going to be able to sell itself after all the dances are done, then you really need to have a really good look at what else you can do with that product and that service. So, I mean, that's just me, and that's why I would choose to represent certain product only, because it can do all that.
That's super powerful. And I'll do the Price is Right part. All right, so who's got questions? All right, we've got one down here.
Yeah, that was great. I just wanted to ask, you're doing B2B SaaS, so that's something which really interests me, but I was wondering, in terms of when getting someone on to do sales, what was sort of your commission strategy, and what was the thinking behind bringing someone on and getting them to sell, and around the commission that they're going to receive for the value of the sale? I don't know if you can speak to that or not, but yeah, that's something I'm thinking about.
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. I didn't see bringing on Lan as any different to bringing on any other employee. I saw it as going, this is the person that I want. We think that they're going to be perfect for our organisation. What is the arrangement that's going to make them happy and excited to be part of this business? And how do we get to that point? And so it was a conversation. And, if I recall, I just said to Lan, what makes this really exciting for you? And then, she told me what that was, and then we worked through it. And it's about trying to work out, okay, where's the balance? I mean, someone can come in and say, yeah, I want $1 million a year, and you go, okay, well, maybe it's not a balance for a startup. But it's trying to frame it up in such a way that there's commitment as well, right? So it's and that's where the incentives comes in and those kind of things. But it all comes down to fundamentally, I want every person in my team to be happy to be there and be excited about what they're doing, and not have this dollar remuneration figure hanging over their head going, I feel like I've got, screwed down or whatever. It just needs to be right. And it's a constant conversation as well. So, things change over time, but that's the key thing. I don't think there's, you can Google a million different sales structures. Ultimately, I said to Lan, what works for you? What are the sales structures that you like? She knew way more about it than I did anyway. So, we just worked it through, and we got to a point that works. And ultimately, I think that's the end goal.
Fantastic. Who's next?
Thanks, Lan. Thanks, Gabe. I have a question actually about your product, your strategy to enter new markets. So you shared about agriculture, that when you try to enter you were willing to pay a value that was less than you expected. But when you're launching a product and entering a market, you can define, hey, this is the price that I want to sell my product. And when you're talking to a market, the price may be wrong or off what they want to pay. When is the point where you need to, hey, should I change market, or should I change my price? Should I review my costs? Can you share a bit more about what's the strategy when you're doing that for your first market?
It's a bit of trial and error. But ultimately, you've got to understand your own costs. And you've got to understand what the problem is that you're solving and what that value is to the customer. Because if you want to charge $1,000 a month for something that saves the customer $500, like you're never going to win that conversation. But the rule and thumb I like to have is like it's got to give them 10 times more value than what they're actually paying for you. And if you can demonstrate that, even if it's just anecdotally, it's like this is what it is, and here's the thing, and this is how much it's going to do, and there's all the things that you can do with it. And I don't know what that means to your business, but surely that's what's that? Like how does that look? I think ultimately, if you can't get those questions answered with the right ratio, then definitely change your product, or look at changing your product, or look at changing the market. I mean, if we'd started our product in agriculture, we probably wouldn't exist. But we started in an industry we already knew, so we already knew there was a value there, so we're trying to solve a problem. So ultimately, if anyone's only starting a product because they've seen the problem and they want to solve it, so there should be something that's just about, is that value enough, and is a customer prepared to pay for it? And ultimately, that's selling a product before you've even got it. Scary as shit, but tell you what, it's good validation. If you get it, particularly if it's a good check, then you know that, hey, this is a big problem and it's worth solving. Do you want to add to that?
Just to follow on, does that mean that when you're selling for like tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, your strategy, like your pricing strategy needs to be different based on what's the value they're providing, or what does that solution mean to them?
Yeah, tier 1s are a strange beast because they've often... Money is it's not even a question for a lot of these. It's not about the value, it's about the perceived value. And that perceived value is potentially not related to the real value. It's related to people's roles and responsibilities and where their goals are and what the corporate hierarchy is, and a whole range of other things. It's not necessarily this is going to provide X amount of value to the business. This is going to provide X amount of value to me and my career path, or whatever other things are going on. So, like, it's worth being mindful of, but sometimes it's not even about price at all. It's about what budgets can be approved at certain levels, and if you fit within that, you can get a tick in the box. If it goes over that, it goes to a different level. So it gets complex. Yeah.
Also add to that, I'll speak up, is that often startups, you'll price yourself too low. So I remember when we started with my previous business that I exited, we were in at like literally $10 per user per month, and it was actually through an SI. They went, we can't put you in. We were like, why? They're like, you're too cheap. And he literally wrote a number, and then we then moved to an all-you-consume license, which was $43,000. We thought, yes, we've made it. They were like, no, you're still too cheap. They literally wrote $120,000 per year for an all-you-can-eat tenancy license, and the customer didn't even blink. So my advice to you is don't think that you're too expensive. Think about like what's the value you're giving back to them. Because if you're too cheap, they won't consider you. They'll think that you're trash and you're not delivering any value.
I would also like to add to what Gabe said as well, in terms of the perception, because what Aaron said is about the dance. It's like different people, and because it's complex sales, our product is B2B complex sales to tier 1, tier 2. You actually need to understand the person that you're selling to in front of you. They have different priorities, and so what they want to hear is like, oh, well, I got ESG KPI. Will your product meet ESG KPI? Or, so it's not about just saving. It's like, how can you make my work efficient? How can I look good in front of my boss? So there's all these different, like self-interests that they have. So when you do that dance, you have to be aware of that self-interest. So the product's the same, the price the same, because the way that we price, we have certain structure and how we sell, but it's just the messaging that you're selling to each person, each group within the organization has to be more targeted to what they actually want to hear or expect to hear.
All right, I've got last few questions.
Hey guys, my question's actually for Lan. You spoke earlier about like finding that sweet spot in the organisation. What are some of the questions you ask when you're trying to work out like budget and authority that person has in the organisation?
So I'm glad you asked that question because my background in sales is over 20 years of it. So I get to the point very quickly. So I do my dance, but I don't just like to, go around in a dance. I need to know that who I'm speaking to is the right person. And I remember one of our first, customers that we had when I first joined, and Gabe was really shocked because he's in the room, and then basically I just said, just so that I understand, in this organisation, will you be the only person we need to speak to in regard to approving? It's like those are very standard, straightforward questions because you just need to know who else you need to speak to. So, I mean, it's very direct, but it's not rude because then this person could say, well, really, there's me, but there's also who you want to speak to is my team on the ground, blah, blah, blah. And so at least I know, okay, after we speak to you, we impress you with it, we also need to have that conversation team. And you ask for that conversation because there's nothing worse than actually, do your happy dance and then just stop there. There has to be a follow-up. And so your question is really important, and I drill home on it all the time, is that every conversation you have, there has to be a follow-up and there has to be an expectation of a follow-up. If you don't frame that, you have missed out an opportunity to follow up without harassment. You have to do it in such a gentle way that people expect it and it's respectable.
All right, we've got time for one last question, and then I'll hand back to Dave.
Yeah, thanks for your message. I just wanted to clarify something. Like you mentioned that your pricings are the same, like regardless of whether you are dealing with tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 business. Is that true?
Not quite. Okay. Our product's a very tailored product. So every customer has a different setup. It's a very flexible product, so a lot of our pricing is tied to those customizations and how we tweak it for each customer, and also what they're using it on. So we understand the fundamentals really well of what it costs for us to deliver it, but we've got some flexibility in there so we can adjust it around the client's needs. So there might be one aspect that they're applying EXTAG to that has a really high value, and we know there's quite a lot of tailored, costs in there and bits and pieces, so that's going to be a higher price. But there might be another area that's of a lower value to the customer, but we know that we can deliver that, and maybe we absorb some of the costs on that one because it's part of another picture. So we can be flexible on that. It's about understanding the customer as well, and where those bits fit. Yes, it's not straightforward, unfortunately. It's really about understanding what you've got and value and what people are prepared to pay for it.
Fantastic. We're going to finish up there. I know that there's lots more questions, which is always a good sign about how illuminating this morning's conversation with Gabe and Lan has been. So if we can give a round of applause. And I believe that they're going to stay back as well too, so everyone can meet the EXTAG Quokka. So see Lan, EXTAG Quokka. So I'm sure that they can answer a few extra questions after we finish up. But I'm going to hand over to Dave to close us out.
So for those of you who try to contact me on Meetup, I very rarely look at the messages, but I did look at the messages, and ironically it was a message actually just asking, would you believe it, we stuffed it up, but it was a question ironically about 3PL. Of all the things. So just very quickly, if you are, 3PL stands for it's like the last minute mile. If you are a drop shipper and you've got a product that you're sending out to someone, maybe you've got a Shopify shop or you've got something like that. 3PL is basically where they store it for you and then they'll ship it for you as part of it, so you can link all your shop together. So that's what 3PL is for those who are watching. If you are, I would recommend Keepspace. Awesome company, got offices here in Perth and in a massive warehouse in Melbourne as well. So who here is in e-commerce? A few. Okay, cool. So anyway, so that's your question. And again, I can't guarantee I'll answer all your questions later on Meetup. Next time we are here, we have, in 2 weeks' time, we have crafting effective user personas. So coming out, that's the last one as well.
No, we've got one more.
Is there one more?
Oh, look, we're getting a lot of exercise today, aren't we?
Shameless plug for so West Tech Fest week. We are having a morning startup event. We usually cancel it because it usually clashes with morning startup. But this time we are having a double header. We've got Kate Kerman, who's going to be talking about her business she codes and how to start an impact-driven company, which is really going to be cool. And then we're going to break for, some morning tea and stuff, and then we're going to have another session, which is going to be the Mesh Points panel. There was a slide up there about how to connect with all the different industry groups in WA that can help you out. But that's going to be a really good session on, all the different kind of programs that are available here in WA. So come along to that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be from 7:30 in the morning until 10. So a little bit longer, but yeah, it should be a good event. So.
I just want to say, I've got to give you kudos because I now recall the thread of emails that went through that. I think we should give Scott a round of applause. Just literally, this has been going on for months.
It's a little while.
It's been going on a while, so anyway. So yeah, definitely check that one out. How can I forget that one? We're here until 9. Help yourselves to some food. Thank you, Keep Space, for the food. Awesome 3PL shop. Use them. Thank you to Tekken Devs for the coffee. Go grab yourself a coffee. See you from Morning Startup. Ammo, Jack, and Beecham Group. Thank you, everybody. Have fun, and we'll see you here in 2 weeks.
How funny. Someone's going to have to go home.